Alright, so after the last one, as you know, I took a stab at the rocker panel and I did it. So obviously the next step is to do the other side, and the other side is a lot worse than the side I already did. I knew that there was some Bondo on this car. I mean, here and there, but I didn't realize that it was quite as bad as... I mean, I don't want to say bad. It was just... There was just more than what I expected. You know, I thought that this was all metal down here, and it is all metal, but it's just underneath about an 1/8 inch of mud. But I had to take the supports out because they weren't necessary anymore after I put the structure in. But the reason I had to take that main one out first was because it was up against the support that was going across the front door on the other side, and now that side's done, I needed to, you know, zip off the bar and put the bar on the other side, weld it onto the other side to hold it from twisting or anything while I do that rocker panel. It's really important that you do that, or else, you know, your door might not shut after you weld in your rocker panel, and that's no fun. I mean, that's never happened to me because I've never done it before, obviously, but I was told that that's what can happen. So I just took my time and I tried to do it right, to the best of my ability anyway. But yeah, this bar, I plan on I use it later on. You'll see. But I made quite a few trips to the, you know, parts store today. Not like an auto parts store, but it was to get more square tubing because I was going to knock out a lot of the floor. I had, you know, big ideas, but everything with this is time consuming. So I got a lot done, but just not as much as I pictured in my head. I just got to a good stopping point and I stopped. I could have kept going for a couple more hours, but I was getting exhausted because, you know, every step of the way there's like 10 steps in between. So if that makes any kind of sense, but so I had to prep this other side and get the paint off to weld the bar on this side. And the doors shut very, very nicely in this. And I want to keep them that way because I really like how they shut. Like, you could just let go of them and they shut. And for a 1948, it's pretty nice. Welded it like that, simple. But I hate breathing in the paint fumes of, you know, the paint melting if you don't grind off the paint good enough. Sometimes the garage fills with it, but you're gonna see what I'm talking about here. Like, you can just tell by the dust. This is all Bondo. It's legitimately about an 1/8 of an inch to a 1/4 inch of Bondo, which is normal. I mean, you see that on these old cars because that's how they saved them. Just made them look presentable. But yeah, that's all Bondo, no metal there. It's wild. And the rockers that are in behind it are just, you know, hanging by a thread. They hung on pretty good, but there's just no structure left in them. I mean, if you were inside the car, you could just step right through it. And I wanted to take it off clean. I didn't just want to, like, you know, bend it out of the way and go on with my business. Like, I want to cut it all out. And, you know, rust is like a cancer. I don't want it to continue on. So I want to cut all the rusted areas out and paint over them. I get a little excessive sometimes with painting over my projects, like right away, right after I weld them. And then I have to go back and grind the paint back off if I weld anything onto that. But better safe than sorry. Like I just don't like to, you know, wire off, you know, rust all the time. After about a week, you know, of touching the material, you're gonna start seeing surface rust if you're touching it with your hands. And that started happening to the, you know, brand new square tubing I had already, so I just paint over it. I don't mind, you know, grinding it off real quick. It's not a big deal to me. Yeah, it's all Bondo. And then in behind is just nothingness. I didn't want to, you know, destroy anything worse than what it already was, so I was careful about how I went about it. I probably could have just taken the pry bar and ripped it all right out, but I didn't want to bend the, you know, body, well, the sheet metal nut. I didn't want to have any creases or, you know, dents in it. By the way, it's Halloween season, everybody. This is the best time of the year. It's still semi-hot out. Like, it got up to like 80 degrees today. But it's getting to the point where you can wear a hoodie and jeans out in the shop and, you know, be comfortable. You're not just drowning in your own sweat all day like I was all summer doing this. But, you know, I think a couple videos ago there was like a 4-day streak heat wave where it was like 103, 104 degrees in Pennsylvania. So, and I worked out here and filmed the whole time, and it was pretty horrific. But yeah, it's getting a lot nicer. I'm excited to work out here in the wintertime. It'll be really nice. Yeah, I mean, everything is just the surface. If you saw it on the surface, it doesn't look too bad, but you look underneath, it's just it's as flimsy as a Pepsi can. I didn't show the whole process of cutting everything out real nice and neat because that would have just been extremely boring, but that's finished product. See, I grinded down through the Bondo. Well, you'll see in a second here. There you go. And there is metal under there, but it's very thin, and I'm probably going to end up, I mean, I weld it and everything, as you'll see in a few moments, but I'm probably going to end up putting more mud over top of it just to smooth it out. And then, you know, most likely I'll put that trim, the side trim on the car. But yeah, I mean, I don't have anything against using Bondo. You know, I don't use it to fix things, but if it's covering ugly welds or whatnot, I don't see a problem with it. It'll make it look a lot nicer, and it's a really easy solution. I just did the same exact thing as I did on the other side, but I don't show as much because you guys already saw it. So if you want to see the long version of how I did my rocker panel on the other side, just watch the previous video before this. But I kind of, you know, show you the short version of it this time. But it's the same exact way, same exact length. You know, everything was the same other than that back quarter panel was a little bit thinner and a little bit, you know, had a lot of Bondo on it. The other one had none. It was solid, a lot more solid than this one was. Also, like I don't think you can really see, but like I use wood clamps and stuff, uh, bar clamps to kind of hold it up to where I want it, and I have a crowbar in there just kind of pushing tension on it, like lifting up on it so I can get tight welds. If that wasn't in there, there'd be a bigger gap. And then once I get my welds, I just take it out, you know. But there's little tricks to it that I'm learning as I go. I watch Bad Chad a lot, his YouTube channel. Check him out. His channel's awesome. And I learned little tricks from him. Like he has this shoulder, it's like a pry bar that goes into his shoulder, and he pushes down to hold the metal, like to compress the metal while he's welding it. That way he still has two free hands. He just uses his shoulder. I was actually doing something similar to that today, which I would have never thought of, you know, had I not watched his channel. But yeah, he has some pretty cool tricks. I mean, he's been doing it long enough, so not 2 months like me. But as you can see, in the past 2 months since I started welding, I've been welding in almost every episode, and I knew that was going to happen. It's definitely an addiction. I just was really held up all this time by not being able to get things done. I was working on this like once a month or twice a month. Now I work on it almost every day that I have free, because there's always something you can do now that I can weld. There's a lot to do. I have the whole car to build, and I'm gonna build it myself. Even if I couldn't weld, like I didn't like the idea of having to have someone do stuff for me like that. I wanted to build this car. I didn't want someone else to build it. It would have been pretty embarrassing if people were like, "Oh man, you know, you have a 60 or a 40s gasser. That's sweet." And I had to explain to them like who built it for me. It's kind of, you know, that's not what I'm about. That was the whole purpose of buying this car, was to make it my own, and or else I would just go out and buy a car out of a car lot. But that being said, there are things I do need help with. Like the engine was built for me. I didn't build the engine, which I'm so grateful that, because the engine's awesome. I kind of chose how it was going to look. I chose to get the, you know, tunnel ram and the dual carburetors and stuff like that. Like I could have just went with a regular engine, but so I wouldn't say I designed it, but I kind of made it how I wanted it, you know, and suggested things, but I had no part of actually putting it together or building it, which I would love to get involved in that next. Like I think that the next project I do, possibly with the truck, I think I'm going to build my own engine, or else get one that's just a bottom end and, you know, at least do the top end, because I'm pretty confident that I can build an engine, a V8. It's, you know, a small block. It doesn't get any simpler than that. I didn't paint the middle of the middle section yet, because obviously I'm going to be welding onto it a lot. So what I'm doing here is I'm cutting 8.5 inch pieces out, which I don't show because it takes forever. This is like really thick metal, and I notched these out. I was going to put a bar the whole way across, which I do, but I do it differently than what I planned, because it would run into the drive shaft. So I notch these out, and those pieces fit in there perfectly like that. And I got to drill up through the bottom, and then that's how I'm gonna, there's rubber spacers in between there, bushings, and that's, you know, so these are my, it's going to add a lot more structure. And then especially, you'll see in a moment, well, maybe a few moments, you got to get through this boring welding part, but this is definitely flown through. Like I didn't I didn't take too long of a process to show everything that I did here. Like, this is very generalized. Like, there was a lot of stuff that went on behind the scenes, but I don't feel like it's necessary to, show every single tiny thing that I do. A, I forget, and B, I do this all on my phone. I film on my phone, I edit on my phone, I make the music on my phone. Everything's done on my phone, so I narrate on my phone. And what happens is, if my videos are really long, it takes up a lot of storage on my phone. So if I'm time-lapsing something that takes like hours, like if I'm time-lapsing myself for like 30 minutes straight, if I'm filming myself for 30 minutes straight and then I time-lapse it and condense it into like a 30-second clip of me, speeding up and going fast, it takes up tons of memory on my phone. So like, I'm just trying to show bits and pieces of what I do. Like, there's no sense in showing the entire process. Like, I'm pretty sure you guys get what I'm doing, and even if you do it yourselves and you don't have much experience like me, I feel like it's enough to show you kind of what I'm doing. So there's the old bar that was going across the doors. I cut a little piece off of it and I put it across there, which it's towards the front, so the bolt hole will still miss it for the body mounts, and that's going to add a ton of structure. That bar is super thick, and it might not look like it, but it's about 2 inches above the drive shaft, and that drive shaft's set really high right now. It's going to be lower than that. Like, it'll probably be another 2 inches lower, so I have about 4 inches of space above, and that's going to be enough. My rear end doesn't, it's not gonna make that much of a difference. But it won't hit is the whole key. Did I mention I love to weld now? Say it in every episode, man. I love to weld now. Like, it's so convenient to just go out in the garage and just build stuff. Like, it's so crazy that it took me 35 years to do this. Should have been doing this when I was 14. But I guess better late than never. Now that the kids are back in school, I can really, on my free time, I can just come out here and put in work and not be interrupted or anything. I can just do this for 8 solid hours on certain days. That's why I've been getting a lot more videos in, by the way. It's because school started, if you haven't noticed. It's not as frequent, during the summertime. Also, outside of, this hobby, not to get too personal or anything, but I do tattoos, so someone told me, they thought that I would actually it was my next door neighbor. He said, you would love to weld if you like to tattoo, like you're particular and you like doing, which I don't know, it really doesn't have anything to do with, one doesn't have anything to do with the other, but he just knew that I would love welding. Like, he was right, and I'm obsessed with it. Like, I just want to, I mean, I'm not obsessed with welding in itself. I'm just obsessed with getting this car done. So it's just really fun. So there it is, and it's painted. I'll probably have to strip it back down when I do the floor, but it's on there. So, because it might be another 2 months till I do the floor. So at least it won't all be rusted. So everything's solid as a rock, man. I mean, I was standing on those rock panels, jumping up and down, and they're solid. So another surprise today that I wasn't expecting. I just mocked these shocks up, if you remember. They're fully compressed, so I needed to get shorter ones, and these came, but I'm not going to put them on yet because it's going to get all dusty. It's going to get all crazy. I'm not going to put them on until the engine is actually getting put in, which I just bought a transmission for, by the way. So the engine is coming. I know I say that all the time, but I just wanted to show you that I got the shorter shocks, and they were about $75 from Speedway Motors, and I'm excited to put them on and have this all fresh. And I'm excited for the motor and tranny, which I'm going to keep going on this project, and no matter how long it takes for the engine to get here, I'm not making any promises for the next one, but I'm just going to keep going. If it happens, it happens. But it's built, it's ready to roll. I'm just getting the tranny rebuilt, and then that's that. Thanks for watching.